On our 5th anniversary, I opened Jason Locke's personal safe only to find an old phone. The password was, of course, his first love, Yvonne Yates' birthday. Every little memory between them, texts, photos, notes, was all there, perfectly preserved. Meanwhile, my own phone didn't hold a single picture of us. Lydia, digging through my past. Is this entertaining for you? I turned to the doorway, calm, collected, no outburst in sight. Divorce, I said simply. He approached, snatched the phone, and in one fluid motion, reset it completely. Expression blank, emotionless. Happy now? Still want that divorce? I met his gaze steadily. Divorce. Stop the theatrics already. Jason's frown deepened, irritation clear. Be patient. When this project wraps up at the end of the year, I'll take you to Aspen to see the snow. I said nothing. He smirked, that careless, infuriating smirk, and tapped my forehead. I'm serious this time. Not joking. A humorless laugh nearly escaped me. Not joking, he wasn't joking, and that made it all worse. He had lied every time before and he knew it. The Aspen trip had been postponed year after year. Every movie date, I stood outside the theater alone until it started. Every time he promised to pick me up, I ended up drenched in the rain, abandoned. Every single promise broken. And now he acted like dangling this was some sort of reward. Don't bother. Jason, I want a divorce, I said, steady, unwavering. Ice spread across his features. He was done being patient. Lydia, this is ridiculous. Go to Aspen or don't, I don't care. I already gave you your chance. Just don't come crying when I don't do what I said. He grabbed his jacket and left, leaving the anniversary dinner I had painstakingly prepared untouched. I remained seated, taking a bite as if he wasn't even there. The door slammed behind him, his anger echoing into the room. Long ago, my heart had stopped aching. Now, all that remained was quiet. I used to believe Jason was too refined for simple pleasures, too elegant for ordinary life. But he had cooked for the woman he loved, burns and cuts on his hands as proof of affection. He had said things that sounded childish even to him. Cooking for someone you love feels amazing. I'm gonna cook for Yvonne forever, make her so full nobody else will want her. Reading his words, the truth hit me. I had been a joke. The next day, I met my best friend, Sophia Mitchell, at a coffee shop to draft the divorce papers. What happened?
This seems bad, she asked.
Exhausting, Sophia, I muttered, eyes on the bustling street. She's back. Just that one word, and she understood. Yvonne, Jason's first love. Her name felt like a constant pinprick in my chest, never bleeding, always hurting. 5 years, and she had quietly controlled my life the entire time. Jason always insisted on personal space, yet they shared a Spotify account. He detested public exposure, yet his old social media was littered with reminders of her. He took me to galleries she adored, shopped with me begrudgingly, while entire weekends were spent with her exploring antique markets. 5 years together, 2 dating, 3 married, and he had never truly let her go. I had been his companion, a placeholder, a second choice.
Fine.
I'll handle the divorce papers and make sure he can't pull any tricks, Sophia said. But are you certain about this? I've been telling you forever he's wrong for you. He's never been honest, and you've been undervaluing yourself by staying. But you still fell for him, ignored everything I said, she chided gently. I lifted my gaze, meeting her eyes over the rim of my coffee. I will never shrink myself for anyone again. The sky hung heavy with gray clouds, rain threatening at any moment. Sophia's husband arrived to pick her up. Didn't I tell you not to come? She asked. Are you kidding? I'm not letting you stand out here in the rain, he replied, smiling. Lydia, want a ride? I can drop you off first, he offered. I shook my head faintly. You go ahead. I'll stay a little longer. I used to envy the ease between them, the effortless care. Jason and I had spent the same years together, yet it always felt like I was looking through a pane of glass. The truth was simple. He had never truly loved me. For years, I'd convinced myself he just didn't know how to show it. When the rain eased, I stood to leave. A familiar Maybach rolled up slowly. In the passenger seat sat a woman in an ivory dress, her hair falling in perfect waves, radiating that natural elegance Jason always seemed drawn to. Jason stepped out of the driver's side, likely just grabbing a quick coffee. His eyes flicked to me, expression unchanged except for a subtle raise of one brow. He probably expected me to greet him first, but I kept my gaze on my phone, checking my Uber. Lost in thought, I misstepped and twisted my ankle. Jason noticed, a frown fleeting across his face. Then he walked inside as if nothing had happened. I waited by the curb, ignoring the sharp pain. Minutes later, he emerged with 2 takeaway cups. "Let's go," he said. "Did you bring me a ride?" I asked. "Isn't this what you wanted?" His voice held that familiar icy impatience. "I didn't ask for this," I replied. Jason said nothing more. He pulled me toward the car, handed me one of the coffees, and when I didn't take it, set it aside. The drive was silent, tension thick in the air. Yvonne suddenly pressed a hand to her forehead. "Jason, I think my blood sugar's dropping. Do you have something sweet?" Without hesitation, Jason fished chocolate from the glove compartment. "I've told you countless times to eat properly. You never listen." She chuckled softly. "I get distracted sometimes. Lucky you're here." They slipped into easy conversation, reminiscing, laughing over shared memories, speaking a language I didn't belong to. I sat in the back seat, invisible, watching their intimacy as the city blurred past. Central Park came into view, the Ferris wheel turning slowly against the gray sky. Jason and I had our first date there. Legend said couples who kissed at the top were destined for happiness. I had stolen a kiss that day. He had stared at me for what felt like forever. Later, I discovered his real regret was never taking Yvonne there. Memories flashed. My hopes met with his indifference. All those moments where I had poured myself into him alone. I closed my eyes briefly, and when I opened them, we were parked outside my building. Yvonne had already stepped out. Jason unbuckled his seatbelt, glancing at my swollen ankle. "Lydia," he said softly, "does it have to be like this?" Confused, I looked at him. "If you wanted me to pick you up, you could have just asked. Did you really have to hurt yourself for attention?" He sounded calm, but irritation lingered underneath. Perhaps he resented my presence, intruding on his time with Yvonne. "Jason, you're overthinking this," I replied. "I never asked to be driven," he snapped bitterly. He probably thought I was being stubborn. A sharp laugh escaped him. "So you plan to crawl home like this?" "I can call a cab," I said, meeting his gaze evenly. "I don't need you," I added. "I used to cling to you because I loved you. That doesn't mean I'm helpless without you. Leave then. Try leaving, and let's see who comes crawling back." His eyes darkened. I said nothing. When those divorce papers hit his desk, he'd understand I was done. I opened the car door, determined to step out on my own. Jason moved first, lifting me efficiently, not gently, but carefully enough I didn't fall. Once inside, he found the first aid kit and awkwardly tended to my ankle, still wearing that cold expression. "Don't do this again," he said. I watched silently. This was classic Jason. Harsh on one hand, caring in another. He was hot and cold, leaving me spinning in my own head, questioning every feeling. Did he even have a shred of genuine affection for me? 5 years of wondering was enough. I muttered a casual thanks. Jason remained by the couch, silent. "Anything else?" he asked, pressing his lips together. "Don't you want to ask me something?" I shook my head. I had already checked Yvonne's Instagram, a plane landing, captioned, "Waiting for you." No likes, no comments from Jason. Naturally, he had gone straight to her. "I'm tired. Guest room tonight," I said, voice cold. Jason grabbed my wrist. "Lydia." For once, he tried to explain. "Yvonne and I aren't what you think. I picked her up because she just got back and doesn't know the area. I was helping." I hummed. "Fine." He studied me, as if searching for doubt. "Yvonne and I ended long ago. We're just friends now," he added. I nodded, indifferent. Then, unexpectedly, he pulled me close and kissed me. Warmth radiated through me, the heat I had once craved. He probably thought one kiss could undo everything. I turned my head away. Jason froze, stunned. He hadn't expected refusal. His expression darkened. "Lydia, my patience has limits too. Don't push me." That night, we slept separately. He claimed the guest room, leaving me the master. The next morning, the house was quiet. He had already left. Calmly, I got ready and went to the office to submit my resignation. If I was leaving, it would be complete. I had stayed for Jason, hoping to work alongside him, to spend time together. But he had hidden our marriage, insisting it wouldn't look good, and kept his distance at every turn. Business trips? He never chose me. Meetings? I was invisible. My achievements? Ignored. At work, it seemed he held a personal grudge. HK was one of the few who knew about us. "You're leaving?" Mr. Locke only mentioned a demotion, not a resignation. I froze. That evening was the company's anniversary gala, a formal banquet. Even though I was leaving soon, I still attended. At least the year-end bonus was mine to collect. From the stage, Jason made a public announcement. Yvonne had been officially hired. He even emphasized to everyone, "Take good care of our new colleague." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Did the CEO really just say that? I clapped, expressionless, while Jason's gaze lingered on me, as if measuring my reaction. Beside him, Yvonne teetered in her heels, and he immediately leaned in to steady her. Halfway through the banquet, I slipped out onto the terrace for some air and overheard Jason chatting with a friend. "What, another Cold War with Lydia?" the friend asked. Jason swirled his wine casually. When will you let go of your pride and try to win her back? Women like her don't come along often." "I know," Jason admitted. "Then why humiliate her by bringing Yvonne here? What if Lydia finally snaps and leaves?" "She won't," Jason said firmly. "Lydia will never leave me."
Huh.
Still convinced I was the same lovesick girl who always begged for his attention. I was about to turn when a voice called out behind me. What a coincidence. "Care to join me for a drink?" Yvonne approached casually, her tone intimate, as if we were old friends. "I forgot to introduce myself properly last time. You're Lydia, right? Sorry for swooping in and taking your place." Her words were loaded. I caught the provocation immediately. "Do we know each other, Miss Miller?" I asked coldly. She smiled brightly. "I don't know much about you, but you must know plenty about me, right?" She must have seen my name in the visitor logs. When I didn't react, Yvonne's frustration became obvious. She deliberately splashed wine on herself and cried out in mock surprise. Jason immediately stiffened and rushed over. "Lydia, what the hell are you doing?" I clenched my fists and did nothing to explain. Instead, I flung my wine straight at him. Gasps rose from the crowd, and I smiled icily. "This is what I'm doing." A waiter brought towels, and Jason wiped his face, eyes narrowing as they fixed on me. He said nothing further, and eventually left the banquet with Yvonne. Watching them walk away, I pulled out my phone and typed a message. "Resignation letter and divorce papers are on your desk. Don't forget to sign." Then I blocked and deleted his number. At home, I packed my luggage and noticed 2 Aspen tickets on the table. Did Jason really think I had been packing these past few days in anticipation of seeing snow with him? Expressionless, I tore my ticket in half and left the city without a glance back. Meanwhile, Jason drove Yvonne home, tense and smelling faintly of wine. "Please don't be mad, Jason. Lydia probably didn't mean to upset anyone," Yvonne cooed. "I'm fine. I just hate that you got caught in this mess," he muttered. "Promise me you two won't fight over me?" she asked softly. Jason stared out the window, offering a distracted hom. She hesitated, then reached out to fix his crooked tie, whispering, "It hurts to see you like this." He pulled back instinctively. "I wasn't trying to, she murmured. "I know," he said, tugging at his tie in frustration. The car was quiet, tense. Jason drummed his fingers on the window, restless, a gnawing unease inside him. They reached her building. "Thanks for the ride, Jason." He didn't offer his usual sleep well. Instead, he rushed out. "Everything's sorted at work.
Get some rest."
I'm heading out." Yvonne lingered by the curb, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, delicate and vulnerable. "Jason, want to come up? I get anxious alone at night, maybe just for a little while." Something flickered in Jason's eyes, but he held himself in check. "Yvonne, that's not a good idea. I'm married to Lydia," he sighed. Driving home, Jason massaged his temples, trying to shake off a strange sensation in his chest. Maybe I am actually angry this time, he thought. The demotion was harsh, but she'll see the plane tickets and be thrilled. She'll act proud for a moment before melting into my arms. Pushing open the front door, he found complete darkness. No lights. No one waiting up for him. The living room was spotless, cold, and hollow. No leftover dinner. Only a plane ticket torn in half on the table. Jason's stomach sank. His phone buzzed incessantly. His assistant had sent screenshots from office gossip chats, buzzing with speculation. Locke and the new girl Yates are definitely a thing. Did you see him on stage? OMG. That moment he caught her from falling. Perfect angle. Wait, Yates was Locke's college girlfriend? No way. An old photo appeared, Jason and Yvonne in college, grinning at the camera, campus behind them. Jason's jaw clenched. It was spreading fast. Someone had dug deep, and he realized he'd been played. Jason drove back, intent on finding Yvonne. The moment she spotted him downstairs, her face lit up with delight, a hint of something else lurking in her eyes. "Jason, did you come to keep me company?" she asked sweetly. Jason didn't waste time. His voice was calm, unnervingly so. "Yvonne, have you seen the company group chats?" She blinked, startled. "No, why? What happened?" His sharp gaze pinned her in place, studying her like he could see straight through her. "All those rumors about us, you didn't leak them, did you?" Shock and hurt flashed across her face. She stepped back, eyes welling. "Jason, how could you even think that about me?" she whispered. "I just got back from overseas. I barely know anyone here, and today was literally my first day at your company. How could I team up with coworkers to spread gossip? What would I gain from that?" Jason's eye twitched. Her slip hadn't gone unnoticed. "Yvonne, didn't you say you hadn't looked?" She tried to cover. "I just glanced at it briefly. How was I supposed to know that's what you were asking about?" Then she shifted slyly, directing suspicion elsewhere. "Besides, Jason, if anyone wanted to stir trouble, it could be Lydia. She was furious tonight, throwing wine at you in front of everyone. She didn't care about your image at all. Honestly, your wife isn't worthy of you." "Enough," Jason snapped, voice icy. "Lydia isn't who you think she is. Tonight must have been a misunderstanding. I'll handle it tomorrow at the office." Yvonne's performance was flawless, but Jason couldn't find proof of her involvement. He rubbed his temples, trying to suppress the storm of thoughts. Meanwhile, Lydia had already made her move. She'd ripped up the Aspen tickets, blocked his number, and refused his calls. Suddenly, a notification popped up in the company chat. "Holy crap. Look what I found dropping off files at CEO Locke's office tonight." Attached were photos of a resignation letter and a divorce agreement. Signed, Lydia Shaw. Someone realized they sent it to the wrong chat and tried to recall it. Too late. Messages exploded. "Wait, Locke and Lydia? I thought he hated her? When did they even get married? So Lydia's the real boss? What does that make Yvonne?" The office buzzed with gossip. Jason froze, stunned, as the news spread faster than he could process. The next day, Yvonne forced herself to appear at work, only to be met with stares and whispers. As she walked through the break room, co-workers scattered, some openly criticizing. "Home-wrecking someone's marriage and showing her face here? Zero shame," one woman snapped. Yvonne paled, trying to explain. "Jason and we knew each other first." "Lydia." A bold coworker cut her off. "So, what if you knew him first? They're legally married. Right now, you're the homewrecker." Tears threatened to spill as Yvonne covered her face and ran to Jason's office. She burst in, voice shaking. "Jason, how can they say these things about me? She froze mid-sentence. Jason sat behind his desk, face dark as storm clouds, gripping the divorce papers so tightly the edges were crumpled. He looked exhausted, likely searching for any trace of Lydia. Only now did he truly understand. She wasn't throwing a tantrum or playing games. She was done. Jason's chest ached, as if an invisible hand were crushing it. He'd called her number repeatedly, only to hear the same cold, mechanical message. "The number you have dialed is not in service." Yvonne sobbed, reaching out. "Jason, He cut her off coldly. "Enough. Shut up." In desperation, he called Lydia's lawyer and best friend. "Did you help Lydia draft this divorce?" "What if I did? Where is she?" Sophia's sarcastic laugh pierced the line. "You've got some nerve, Jason. Haven't you done enough to her? Let me make this clear. You will never find her. Go to hell."
Click.
Silence. Jason's face went stone cold. A week later, his assistant knocked at his door. "Sir, we found her." The plane touched down in Charleston, 2,000 miles away from the life I'd left behind. This was my hometown, a warm, humid southern city, familiar yet strangely distant. I dragged my suitcase to the front door and hesitated, taking a deep breath before pressing the doorbell. Mom opened it and froze for a moment. Then her eyes filled with tears. "You finally remembered you have a home." From the living room, Dad appeared, his voice firm but his trembling hands betraying his emotions. I lowered my head, voice catching. "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry." They'd never approved of Jason from the start. I had insisted on marrying him, ignoring all their warnings. "You've been hurt, haven't you, sweet girl?" Mom asked, taking my hands, scanning me with concern. You've lost weight. Haven't you been eating properly all these years? Don't worry, I'll make your favorite mac and cheese, I thought. Seeing the gray at my parents' temples made my chest ache. Fighting over a man had felt so pointless. Thank God it wasn't too late. Over the next few days, I settled into the rhythm of home. Grocery shopping with Mom, listening to her chatter about the best produce, sitting quietly by the river with Dad while he fished, watching the water ripple. The warmth of home seeped into my heart, easing the ache. As Chinese New Year approached, my parents' curiosity became too much to hide. Lydia, you and Jason, are you really going to keep this up? Mom asked cautiously. He hasn't called? Hasn't come to get you? Dad's voice carried a probing tone, though softened by concern. Married couples don't hold grudges overnight. Life goes on. You chose him, so if he apologizes sincerely, don't be too stubborn. Seeing their worry, I knew I had to tell the truth. I set down the orange I was peeling. Mom, Dad, this isn't just a fight. I came back because I've decided to divorce Jason. The living room fell silent. I kept the explanation light, omitting Yvonne's involvement. We have fundamental differences. We're incompatible, and being together has been exhausting. I was naive before, but now I see clearly. Mom stared, then sighed, tears in her eyes, gently patting my hand. As long as you're home, this will always be your home. Dad silently finished his cigarette, nodding heavily. A few days later, Mom mentioned the neighbor's son, Ryan, had returned from overseas. You used to play together as kids, remember? He wants to take you to dinner, just as a welcome home. Don't overthink it. It's just friends catching up. I nodded. Seeing an old friend seemed like a good step toward a new life. The restaurant was charming. Ryan had changed from the skinny boy I remembered. He was composed, refined, polished, without being intimidating. We shared laughter over childhood memories, talked about Charleston's changes and funny moments from his work abroad. He navigated conversation skillfully, never bringing up my marriage, making the evening light and enjoyable. I hadn't laughed like that in years. Just as we were about to leave, a server hurried over. Sir, someone hit your car in the parking lot. We followed to the lot and froze. There he was, Jason, leaning against his car, his expression dark as thunder. Lydia, we're not divorced yet, he said, emphasizing every word, glaring at Ryan. Are you really going on dates with other men? I caught Ryan's furrowed brow but ignored it, stepping forward. Jason, do you find this funny coming from you? Am I not allowed to have male friends? Not allowed to eat dinner with people? He laughed coldly. The way he looks at you, you're telling me he's just a friend? Before I could reply, he grabbed my wrist roughly, pain shooting through me. I yanked free, laughing mockingly. What about you and Yvonne? You acted like a couple, brought her into the company to replace me, making eyes at each other. What did you take me for then? Do as I say, not as I do, Mr. Locke. He tried to defend himself. She and I aren't. Whether you are or aren't doesn't matter to me anymore. I cut in, ice in my voice, breaking free completely. Sign the divorce papers. If you're too embarrassed, fine. 2 options, sign or I take legal action. I have time, and I'm not afraid of a fight. He looked wounded, voice hoarse. Why divorce? Just because of Yvonne. I told you, there's nothing between us. If there were, it's over. If you can't handle it, I can cut all ties with her. That should be enough, right? Ryan stood nearby, watching the scene unfold, his voice calm but firm. Sir, let go of her, or I'll have to call the police. He remained composed, protective without being aggressive. Thanks, Ryan. Just give me a moment. I need to make this clear, I said, grateful for the buffer he provided. Ryan gave me a last concerned glance. Call me if anything happens. I'll be close by. Then he stepped away, leaving us alone. I turned to Jason, noting how his anger slowly gave way to a different kind of panic. For the first time, he seemed genuinely unsettled, unable to control the situation. I exhaled, exhausted beyond belief. Jason, I said, my voice steady, you want to know why I'm so determined to divorce you?
Fine. I'll tell you.
I began with the old phone, the messages, the photos, the broken promises. His favoritism toward Yvonne, the way she had been prioritized over me. Piece by piece, I laid it all out, calmly, without raising my voice or breaking down. Jason grew paler with every word. He opened his mouth to argue, but the facts left him speechless. I can change, Lydia. Just give me one more chance, he pleaded, stepping forward to grab my shoulders. I sidestepped him easily. I swear it'll never happen again. I promise I'll make it right. I shook my head, feeling only a quiet, resolute calm. Too late, Jason. I don't need your promises anymore. I don't need guarantees. Even after hearing the truth, he refused to relent. For days, he lingered in Charleston, handling work remotely but finding excuses to show up at my house daily, flowers, gifts, endless apologies. Mom tried to mediate at first, but eventually gave him the cold shoulder. Dad, less patient, chased him off with a broom. Get lost. My daughter doesn't want to see you. Leave now, or I'm calling the cops. After several police interventions, Jason backed off slightly, but still loomed like a ghost. Then the project Yvonne was managing at the company collapsed spectacularly. Jason had no choice but to return and fix the mess. I later learned from Sophia that Yvonne's overseas credentials were completely fake. She had spent those years as a wealthy man's underground mistress, only to return home in disgrace when her scheme fell apart. When Jason discovered the truth, he flew into a rage, slapped Yvonne in front of everyone, fired her, and even considered suing her. Without money, she faced jail time. After the courthouse incident, Jason appeared exhausted. But when he saw me, a flicker of hope crossed his face as he hurried toward me. Lydia, what are you doing here? Sophia squeezed my hand beside me. Don't flatter yourself, Jason. She's here to see me. I faced him, my voice soft but firm. Jason, sign the divorce papers. Do you really want us tearing each other apart in court? He asked, desperation in his tone. We've been together 5 years. Let's at least end this with dignity. He froze, eyes dimming as he processed my words. I understand, his voice was hoarse. I'll sign the papers. But I won't give up on you. I'll start over. Don't bother, I interrupted. Just contact my lawyer once it's done. Sophia lifted her chin in solidarity as I looked at the man I had loved for 5 years and said my final goodbye. Jason, don't interfere in my life anymore. We're finished. I walked away without looking back, toward the sunlight streaming through the Charleston streets. Back home, the warm sun filtered through the kitchen window as I helped Mom with breakfast. The familiar routine brought a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. You look better, Mom said, watching me flip pancakes. There's color in your cheeks again. Dad looked up from the newspaper. Ryan called again. He's been checking on you every day for 3 months. Good to have friends who care. I smiled. He's been amazing. I don't know what I would have done without him. My phone buzzed. Sophia's name flashed on the screen. Take it, Mom nudged. You haven't talked to her in weeks. I stepped onto the back porch. Hey, sophomore. Lydia Shaw. Don't hey soph me. I've been worried sick. How are you really doing? I leaned against the railing, watching a cardinal build its nest. I'm healing. Taking it one day at a time. Good. But listen, you can't hide in that sleepy town forever. 3 months is enough to lick your wounds. Now it's time to remember who you really are. I watched my parents inside, sharing the newspaper, laughing and reading aloud, simple, peaceful, safe. What if I like who I am now? I asked softly. Do you? Really? The Lydia I know had big dreams. She wanted to build, create, and prove herself. That Lydia was brave, and she's still in there. At that moment, the back door opened. Ryan stepped out, holding 2 cups of coffee. Handing me one, he grinned. I have to go, I told Sophia. Think about what I said. And Lydia, you're stronger than you think. Don't let Jason define your future. Ryan settled beside me on the porch steps. Everything okay? Looks like Sophia just gave you one of her pep talks. She thinks I'm wasting my life, Ryan said quietly, taking a sip of his coffee. I smiled softly. And what do you think? I think I'm exactly where I need to be, I replied, letting the words sink in. He nodded. Well, for what it's worth, you should trust your instincts. You've always had a knack for knowing what's right for you. That evening, Dad found me on the back porch, curled up with a book. Mind if I join you? He asked. Of course, I said, shifting over on the swing. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, the evening breeze brushing against us, before he finally spoke. You know, the RJ group has been asking about you. I tensed. Dad. Hear me out, he said. They remember your business degree, your instincts. They think you'd be perfect to head their new fashion division. I'm not ready for. I began, but he cut me off. You don't have to decide now. But opportunities like this don't come often. Maybe it's time to stop letting fear make your decisions. I looked out at the peaceful Charleston evening, then back at him. Maybe he was right. You know what, Dad? You're right. I think I am ready. 6 months later, I stood in the floor-to-ceiling windows of my New York office, overlooking the bustling streets below. The nameplate on my desk read, Lydia Shaw, Creative Director, RJ Fashion Division. Ma'am, Mr. Williams still hasn't delivered the accessories, Sarah announced from the doorway, sweat beading on her forehead. She'd been my assistant for 3 months, sharp, efficient, and refreshingly candid about the chaos of our business. What is he waiting for? The fashion show is next week. I rubbed my temples as the familiar headache of stress began to build. Sarah nodded sympathetically. None of us had been sleeping much lately. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had fought so hard to prove I could succeed independently, and now here I was, overwhelmed by stress, but this time it was mine. This company, this success, this exhaustion, all of it belonged to me. Ma'am, the investors confirmed for the show. Bergdorf's, the Empire Group, YJ Group, and the Boltons. They're all very interested in our new line. I nodded, reviewing the seating charts. This show would make or break our international expansion plans. Everything I had worked for over the past months came down to this week. Perfect. Make sure the Empire Group gets premium seating. Dad mentioned they're important for upcoming collaborations. Already handled, ma'am, Sarah said. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Saw the magazine feature about your upcoming show. I'm so proud of you. You're going to absolutely kill it. I smiled. She had been right all those months ago. I needed to remember who I truly was. And apparently, I thrived under pressure, capable of building empires from nothing. Ma'am, your 3 o'clock is here, Sarah interrupted my thoughts. The rest of the day blurred into a whirlwind of fabric swatches, model fittings, and vendor negotiations. By evening, I was exhausted but satisfied. Several missed calls from Dad blinked on my phone, but I was too drained to deal with board politics tonight. I'd call him tomorrow. Tonight, I just wanted a hot bath and a moment to breathe before the most important week of my career. Looking out at the city lights from my apartment, I felt a sense of pride I had never known with Jason. This was mine. I had built this, and no one could take it away. My phone buzzed again, another text from Sophia. Can't wait to see you conquer the fashion world. You've come so far from that broken girl who came home 6 months ago. She was right. The scared, defeated woman I had been in Charleston felt like a distant memory. Moving to New York had been the right choice, even if it meant leaving behind comfort and familiarity. Now, I had a fashion empire to launch, and nothing could stop me. Oh my goodness, I'm getting a headache. We have the fashion show next week, and we still have so much to do. I groaned. Ma'am, I contacted Mr. Williams. He said he'll deliver everything on time, Sarah replied, sweat trickling down her face. None of us had slept well in days. The stress was overwhelming. I half-joked to myself that I should buy a cottage somewhere and raise cows instead of running a global fashion empire. I hired Williams because he's supposed to be the best. So, why the delay? Now is the right time. I massaged my temples, the pounding in my head refusing to ease. Even coming from a wealthy family, I had built this company from the ground up at such a young age. I'd never experienced a normal life. All I'd ever done was work, stress, and chase results. I might have dated a few men, but real love had never found me. I had assumed I'd grow old with a cat curled beside me. Ma'am, your dad contacted me today. He said he has a problem in his business and would like your help, Sarah added. I don't know anything about hotels, I snapped, gesturing toward the stacks of papers crowding my desk. Does he not see I'm already busy? But I raised my hand, stopping her before her chatter could give me another headache. She was not just my secretary but a friend. I appreciated her, but sometimes her meticulousness added to my stress.
Fine.
I'll call him, I muttered, throwing my hands up in defeat. What? Dad, no. Why would I marry a stranger? I shouted into the phone, exasperated. Didn't I warn you? The board wants a strong connection with the Empire Group. I know I'm forcing you, but you also know the risk. RJ Group is unstable. Just focus on your work and pretend your husband isn't there, Dad explained calmly. Wow, I can't believe you just said that. I laughed sarcastically. And, Dad, you're the head of RJ Group. Why are you always pressured by the directors? You have to stand up someday. I know,
he sighed.
But I'm also doing this for your own good. You'll benefit from this, not me. And you also knew this would happen someday. Since the day you joined RJ, they planned this. Today or later. It's the price everyone pays. RJ is the only group in the States with an ancient mindset, I muttered, rolling my eyes. Lydia, you agreed several times over the past days. Now you act like you never heard of this, Dad said, frustration edging his voice. Okay. I'll marry him. Stop repeating yourself, I snapped. And when RJ becomes stable, I can divorce him. Just try it out. He sounded like he was suggesting I try on a dress and change it later. Fine, but I won't care about him. I'm too busy. Goodbye. I cut the call before he could reply. Ma'am, Sarah said softly. We've sent invitations to the Empire Group, YJ Group, and the Boltons for the fashion show. Investors will surely attend. Wait, the Empire Group? That meant I'd meet my future husband soon. If he had ill intentions, it would be the perfect opportunity to show him I didn't care. I rubbed my hands anxiously. I'd done many fashion shows before, but this was different. We were opening new stores worldwide, and investors' impressions were crucial. For the event, I wore a white backless jumpsuit, large hoop earrings, and light makeup. At 5 feet 8 inches, my height suited the outfit perfectly. Ma'am, you should greet the guests. Anna will start the welcome speech soon, Sarah reminded me. Okay, my palms are sweating. How do I shake hands? Sarah chuckled. Kiss them. I'll fire you. I joked, but walked to the front. Oh dear, there you are. Come with me, Mom said, dragging me toward a group of people. I saw Dad and Mr. Anderson, and beside him, a tall man with dark hair and mesmerizing green eyes. From the corner of my eye, I noticed my models staring. I narrowed my eyes, and they quickly looked away, sheepish. Mr. Anderson, this is my daughter, Lydia, Dad said. Lydia, this is Mr. Anderson, head of the Empire Group, and his son, Marcus, Mr. Anderson introduced. I scowled as Dad subtly signaled me to smile. Mom face-palmed in the background. Marcus gave a forced smile and quickly excused himself, claiming a call. I watched him leave and turned to focus on investors, hoping to distract myself from the looming marriage. Suddenly, Mom ran toward me like a firecracker. The wedding is next week, she squealed. What? I exclaimed. Language. You ungrateful child. Mr. Anderson liked you a lot today. We decided the wedding will be next week. Congrats, Mom. I'm happy you're marrying him. Poor Dad, I teased. She frowned and lightly smacked my back before walking away. I turned to the stage as Anna grabbed everyone's attention. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. First, Mr. Paul Belier, our lead designer, will give a short introduction. After his speech, the show began. Music from the 60s filled the room, and the theme was hippie style. Models strutted in flared jeans, bandanas, and boots. The male models were equally stunning. I felt eyes on me. Glancing up, I saw Marcus, my so-called future husband, staring with a scowl. I rolled my eyes and returned my focus to the show. Finally, it ended. Sarah ran over with joyous news. Ma'am, so many people have already bought shares. We're going to be double rich. She bounced with excitement, and I joined her, screaming in happiness. Sarah, I'll buy you the world. That's sweet, but a raise will do, she laughed. Our laughter was interrupted by my brother, hopping toward me. Your man looks hot, but not as much as me. He was 2 years older than me and immature, though funny. I sighed. Get lost. By the way, he's been shooting daggers at you, Sarah whispered. Yeah, I saw. I muttered. Sarah smirked. Mr. Marcus Anderson wants to talk to you. I scoffed. Tell him to come to me if he wants to talk. My brother chuckled and walked away, giving me a thumbs up. Marcus approached, gritting his teeth. God, you're so annoying, he hissed. Did you just come here to say that to me? I asked. No. I came to tell you, though we're marrying, you'll never get attached. I'm not going to love you. You're a disturbance in my life. Mind your own business after the wedding. Let's not talk, if possible. Did he really think I was lovesick or something? Are you dumb? Why the hell would I get attached to you? I'm too busy and have no time to pet a wild dog. Bye. I winked and walked away, leaving him looking completely shocked. Guess he wasn't used to rejection. He doesn't know what he's getting into. I'm an unstoppable rolling barrel. I walked down the aisle in my wedding dress, my hand draped over Dad's. The day I dreaded had finally arrived. Blinding lights flashed in my eyes as reporters clicked photo after photo. Friends, business partners, the media, none of them knew this was a forced marriage. Only my best friend, traveling the world, knew, and every second I wished she were here beside me. I wasn't just a woman. I was a businesswoman. I understood the stakes. This marriage was critical for the Shaw's position in the RJ group. I had to do it, even if I hated every second. I walked with my head bent low, rehearsing reasons to justify this marriage. Lydia. My dad cleared his throat, nudging me to look at my future husband. There he stood, broad-shouldered, in a black suit, black hair and green eyes, looking impossibly angelic. Not that I was interested. Dad handed my hand to Marcus, and I climbed the steps to stand before the priest. He droned on, but I barely paid attention. I just wanted this moment to end. Marcus cleared his throat, narrowing his eyes. I glanced around. Everyone was staring at me. Camila Shaw, do you take this man to be your husband? The priest asked again. Before I could respond, someone touched my hand. I looked down to see Marcus, lifting my hand and quickly slipping a diamond ring onto my finger as if the act itself was distasteful. I rolled my eyes and grabbed his ring from the ring bearer, shoving it onto his finger. Happy? Now you may kiss the bride. I scowled at the priest, and Marcus mirrored my expression. Then, unexpectedly, he leaned in and pecked my lips. I froze, stunned, until applause erupted around us. The drive to the reception was painfully silent. I thought I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. When we arrived, Marcus stepped out of the car first, ignoring me entirely.
Great.
Reporters swarmed us, snapping pictures and shouting questions I had no intention of answering. Marcus seemed to realize that leaving me behind would cause chaos. He returned, holding out his hand with a scowl. I linked my arm with his, forcing a smile. You're ridiculously ugly when you scowl, I whispered. He glared at me, dragging me inside, nearly making me trip several times. Once inside, he dropped my hand and shoved his into his coat pockets.
Just wow.
I shook my head, staring at the reception setup. The garden venue was breathtaking. A colossal fountain flowed in the center, surrounded by cobblestones strewn with light pink rose petals. Tables draped in silk were adorned with colorful bouquets, and candles shimmered in the greenery hanging overhead. Marcus, come here. Meet my siblings. Dad called, pulling Marcus toward our relatives. Nice, Dad. And here I was, standing awkwardly like an idiot. Time passed, and I chatted with business partners when I noticed someone leaving the reception. Squinting, I realized it was Marcus. I excused myself and hurried after him. Are you leaving? I asked. He ignored me. The wedding isn't over. Don't leave me here, to be embarrassed, I exclaimed. Before he could walk away, a slow song started playing. My aunt waved urgently. Come dance, she called. Marcus sighed and dragged me to the dance floor. He kept a frown on his face, hands on my waist. I placed my hand on his shoulder. We danced without making eye contact. I could feel his frustration. Well, the feeling was mutual. I wanted out as much as he did. So annoying, he muttered. I know the feeling. I shot back. He scowled deeper. After the dance, we spent a couple of hours with the guests before finally leaving for the car. There would be no honeymoon, of course. We were strangers, and a business trip with the Boltons awaited. This marriage had been orchestrated to counter rival groups in upcoming business deals, our first act as a pair in this high-stakes arrangement. I spent the entire car ride staring out the window. Marcus was buried in his phone, not looking up once. The silence was deafening. Finally, after a long drive, we arrived at the Empire's private jet. Marcus settled in a corner while I distracted myself with the meaningless shows on the TV. I caught him glancing at me several times, his lips twitching into a scowl whenever our eyes met. We both knew we'd have to share a hotel room. The business rivals attending the same conference left no other choice. Miss, wake up. The flight has landed. The air hostess shook me. I rubbed my eyes and looked around, perplexed. Marcus was nowhere to be seen. Where is Marcus? Mr. Anderson already left, she replied. He left. Yes, miss. Another car will be here to pick you up.
Wow. Just wow.
He was worse than I thought. Before leaving the jet, I changed from my wedding gown into pants and a red tank top. The car drove me to an enormous seaside hotel. Palm trees lined the entrance, small yellow bulbs flickering along the walls, bathing everything in a golden glow. Miss, your bags will be brought to your room.
Please follow me.
Mr. Anderson is already waiting, said the hotel staff. I followed, opening the room to find Marcus already at the desk, working on his laptop. Sighing, I grabbed one of my bags and headed to the bathroom. Standing in front of the mirror, I inhaled sharply, bracing myself.
Phew.
Okay, let's do this. Don't give a damn about what he says or does. Never talk to him. Let's do this, I muttered, nodding in satisfaction. I changed into a comfortable t-shirt and pants and walked out, only to find Marcus lying on the bed, typing on his phone. Who said you could sleep on the bed? I exclaimed. Who said I couldn't? He replied without looking up. Then where am I supposed to sleep if you're hogging it? Your problem. I don't care. I glared, looking between the couch and the bed. My spine refused to die on the couch. Hell no. Move your butt, I shouted. He rolled his eyes, finally giving me space. I slid into the sheets, exhausted, and fell asleep instantly. I woke to the sound of a ringing phone, groggy and disoriented. The bed was so warm it felt like it was hugging me.
Weird.
Another ring. A groan came from across the bed. Marcus.
Who was that?
I opened my eyes to find a handsome face, sunlight casting shadows across it. And he was hugging me from my waist. Our legs were tangled in the sheets.
My eyes practically popped out of my head.
Marcus mirrored my shock. Like lightning, we scrambled to opposite ends of the bed. The phone rang again. Thank God. It distracted me from the previous moment. I looked at the source. It was my phone. Hello, Jake. Why are you calling me so early? I whispered.
Why?
Do your hips ache? He laughed. What? Well, I called to tell you a surprise, he said. What? Brandon, your ex, is here. I froze. I got dressed and headed downstairs without waiting for Marcus. On the third floor, Jake caught up to me. What's that jerk doing here? I hissed through gritted teeth. He came with the Boltons. Remember, Mr. Charles Bolton is his uncle. But I thought he left for England to work in his father's company. His mother moved back to the Boltons after divorcing Mr. Maitland. They divorced? Have you been living under a rock? Jake facepalmed. Does facepalming run in our family? Why does everyone keep doing it? Brandon was my most hated ex, a trash can in human form, undeserving of anyone's love. My family and friends had warned me about Brandon countless times when I was dating him, but I'd been naive enough to trust him. Now, I prayed to God that he wouldn't cause a scene here. Hey guys. Brandon greeted as soon as the elevator opened. My mood immediately soured at the sight of him. Messy blonde hair, that irritatingly perfect smile. Sure, he was attractive once, but now? Pure disgust. Be nice to him. We need the contract with the Boltons. Jake whispered in my ear. Be nice to him? Are you mad? I whispered back. Let's get breakfast, Brandon said hesitantly, giving us an awkward smile, clearly noticing our eye rolls. Without another word, we strode past him into the dining hall. Chris Bolton, son of Mr. Charles Bolton, and his sister Clara were already seated with Brandon's mother, Lisa Bolton. On the opposite side sat the Harringtons, Smith Harrington and his wife Taylor. I sat next to Taylor along with Jake, while Brandon plopped down next to my brother, clearly disappointed. Good morning, dear. Sorry Charles couldn't join us. He's in an online conference and will meet us this evening, Lisa said with a smile stretching almost across her face. Where's your husband, Lydia? Clara smirked. Who? Jake kicked me under the table. I shrilled in pain, earning curious glances from nearby diners. He's tired, so I didn't want to bother him, I muttered, actually forgetting he existed. After all, Marcus was a fake husband. My dad had made it clear I could divorce him once the RJ group stabilized. No motive to get close, no reason to care. Oh, good morning, Marcus. Come here, Chris called, gesturing toward Marcus, who approached scowling like his face might crack from the effort. God, Marcus was hot, a pure Adonis. White shirt, beige pants, disheveled hair nearly hiding those piercing green eyes. I stared for a while, my cheeks reddening when he finally shot me an annoyed glare. Thankfully, he didn't notice. He claimed the head of the table as breakfast was served. Hey Marcus, you haven't changed since the last time I saw you. Last time was great, Clara said with a huge smile. Wait, he smiled at her? For her? That was unexpected. Last time was great? What does that mean? Did they? Even if this was all fake, I couldn't stand the thought of Clara clinging to him. My knuckles tightened around the silverware. Hey babe, want some more salad? Brandon pointed to the bowl beside him. I would have been pissed if he'd called me that under normal circumstances, but I plastered on a huge smile. Sure, thank you. Marcus looked at Brandon for a second, keeping his head low, pretending not to care. After breakfast, I went out to the balcony and called Sarah to check on company matters. Of course, I made a mistake. She immediately started asking about my marriage, which, as far as I was concerned, was a disaster. Through the corner of my eye, I saw Marcus enter with a frown tugging at his lips. I have to go now, bye, I told Sarah.
Bye, ma'am.
And tell me more about your Mr. Hottie later, she giggled, knowing I'd protest the term. Love you, ma'am. I smiled. Love you too.
Bye.
I turned to see Marcus throwing me a disgusted glance. He shook his head and sat on the bed, laptop in hand. Wait, did he just assume I was cheating? I snorted. I tucked the phone into my pants and walked back to the room. Marcus's green eyes bore into mine. I don't care what you do with other men. Just make sure no one else knows, so you don't tarnish my name. My God, I said with a humorless laugh. Well, husband, hate to break it to you, but the world doesn't revolve around you. His lips twisted into a scowl. I stepped closer to the bed and folded my arms. Tell me, have I done something to you? He didn't answer. I smirked. That's what I thought. You're just projecting your frustration. Find someone else to take it out on. I have work to do. I'm going now.
Bye.
I waved and walked out. I wandered down to the beach, relishing the calm silence. Hey, I turned and groaned. Of course it was Brandon, ruining my peace. What are you doing here, Brandon? I asked, through gritted teeth. Here? I came to see you, he said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. No, I mean here, on this business trip, I said, my irritation obvious in the sharp roll of my eyes. Oh, I decided to join the Boltons. I never had a good relationship with my father, so I guess he'll give his business to my cousin, Brandon said casually. I muttered, keeping my head low, hoping to avoid further conversation with him. So, how are you doing? He asked. Wow, Brandon, I'm so not gonna. How are you after you cheated on me? I said, rolling my eyes. You know I was drunk at the party, he mumbled, looking at the floor with what he probably thought was guilt. I knew better. He'd dated me just to impress his dad, to prove he could handle the company. I thought I could change him, make him love me for real, but before that could happen, he'd cheated. I don't care if you apologize or not. I held up my hand to show my ring. I'm married now. Come on, how can you love that piece of wood? Does he even talk? He muttered under his breath. Yes, he does. Now mind your own business. Lydia, he grabbed my arm. Brandon, let me go. I yelled, trying to free myself. Just listen, I still want you, okay? He said, tightening his grip. Let go of me. I yanked, but he held on, bruising my wrist. Pain shot through me as he used more force. Let go of her. I heard Marcus's voice, low and dangerous. Embarrassment flushed my cheeks, not for Brandon's harassment, but for Marcus, the man I'd mocked just moments ago, now stepping in to save me. What, Marcus? You don't even care about her. It's so obvious, Brandon spat. Doesn't mean she's not my wife. Now move your bloody hand away from her, Marcus said, his face darkening. Brandon released me immediately, only for Marcus to grab my hand and drag me back to the room. He closed the door with a thud, turning toward me with blazing anger. I told you not to act recklessly and ruin everything.
What?
I didn't go to Brandon, he came to me. I crossed my arms, trying to hold my ground. Whatever. Don't cause a scene and expect me to save you. Let's go for dinner. He snatched his phone from the table and left. And do something about your wrist before you come out. Don't humiliate me, he called over his shoulder, leaving me in pain. I huffed in annoyance, quickly changing into white pants and a long-sleeve floral top to cover the bruises. At dinner, the tension was suffocating. Marcus sat on my right, Jake on my left, Brandon across from me. I ignored Brandon's gaze as best I could. Jake leaned toward me. Explain later, he whispered. I gave him a slow nod. After dinner, back in the room, I didn't want to face Marcus. I took my pillow and collapsed onto the couch. Marcus stared at me for a moment before retreating to the bed. Gosh, I want a divorce. I woke to a familiar whimper. Faint, but close. Mom, no. My eyes snapped open to see Marcus on the bed, sweating, fingers gripping the sheets as he twitched in a nightmare. He looked fragile, vulnerable in a way he never allowed anyone to see. I didn't know what to do, but instinctively, I walked over. Marcus. Marcus. I shook him gently. It's just a dream. His eyes snapped open. Get out, he yelled angrily.
What?
Did he just tell me to get out after I saved him? What's wrong with you, dork? I saved your ass, and this is how you treat me. I muttered, more annoyed than hurt, striding to the bathroom to calm myself. When I returned, he was dressed in a t-shirt and pants, preparing to leave. Where are you going? I demanded, scowling. He ignored me. I checked my phone, 2:30 a.m. Where on earth was he going? I waited a while, but he didn't return. I stepped onto the balcony for fresh air and noticed a man seated on a bench down by the beach. Squinting, I recognized him immediately, Marcus, staring at the ocean with a pained expression. I dragged a chair to the balcony and sat, watching him. He tilted his head back, letting the salty breeze hit his face. For the first time, he looked fragile, vulnerable, human. I felt an irresistible urge to run down and hug him, to ask what was weighing so heavily on his mind. But he would hate me for it. I quickly shook my head, annoyed at myself for thinking such things. A notification blinked on my phone. Ally, my only friend, was calling. She was traveling in Sri Lanka, working on a welfare project in India for a few months, so I hadn't seen her in ages. I desperately needed my happy pill. I answered quickly. Hey girl, how's hubby? She chirped. Shut up, I laughed, already feeling lighter just hearing her voice.
What?
He's handsome, she continued, completely innocent. Change the topic. Nope. Then I'm cutting the call, I threatened. You care about him, don't you? Ally, I said, warningly, and she just giggled. We chatted for a while before I finally went back to sleep. About an hour later, I heard a door open and close. Slightly lifting my eyes, I saw Marcus slipping under the sheets, exhausted. Is he always like this? Shutting everyone out? He leaned back on the headboard, pulled out his laptop, and started working without so much as a yawn. Not wanting to get caught staring, I closed my eyes and drifted back to sleep. Today we were meeting Charles Bolton. He hadn't been able to join us yesterday, but he promised to meet us this morning. A kind man, much gentler than his children, and he mentioned a charity event that evening which would require our presence. After our wedding, we were the talk of the country. Two massive businesses merging, all because of a simple wedding ring. Photos were in every magazine and newspaper, paparazzi following every move. It was exhausting, but thankfully the spotlight would fade in a few weeks. I spent the afternoon on my bed, working on company matters, pretending I didn't have a husband. Hours later, I stretched and reached for some painkillers in a drawer, but before I could grab them, the door burst open. Marcus stormed in, yelling into his phone. The force of his voice and the slam of his fist on the table made me flinch. When he finally noticed me, he ended the call abruptly and fixed me with those cold, steel eyes. Get ready. We're going now, he ordered flatly, disappearing into the closet to change. Geez, does saying please kill a person? A while later, Marcus emerged in a dark suit, matching waistcoat and tie. He stood in front of the mirror, fixing his hair. I couldn't help staring, my mouth hanging open, drool threatening to escape. He caught my reflection and narrowed his eyes, glaring. I quickly looked down, cleared my throat, and bolted to the closet. I changed into a floor-length red dress with a high slit, curling the ends of my dark brown hair into soft twists that fanned around my shoulders. As I was finishing my makeup, Marcus knocked sharply on the door. What are you doing in there? Giving birth. Come on, we're going to be late. I put on light makeup and stormed out, fuming. Without a glance at me, he marched to the elevator. The hotel driver took us to a massive hall, teeming with elegant guests dripping with wealth. I walked along the showcases, inspecting each item. Beautiful necklaces immediately caught my eye. Marcus was right beside me, observing the jewelry. We both scanned the items for the charity auction, which was for a children's hospital. Next, we moved to the artwork section. I didn't understand art, but I admired it anyway. Marcus, however, seemed genuinely interested, discussing pieces with others and nodding in approval. Are you going to bid on the paintings? I asked, curious. Nim, he muttered. And just like that, he walked off to check other works, leaving me alone. I met my investors shortly after, spending time with them until a man with a microphone instructed us to take our seats. I followed the crowd into a room with a stage and spotted Marcus at the corner. Hastily, I sat next to him. He gave me the classic, "You're so annoying" look before focusing on the auction. The event went smoothly. I bought a few necklaces, while Marcus bought 7 portraits. 7. Where on earth would he hang those? Want to have dinner? I asked awkwardly in the car afterward. He glanced at me from the corner of his eye, sighed in irritation, and pulled into the parking lot of a restaurant. As we stepped inside, many people immediately recognized us. The manager rushed over and led us to the best spot by the window, overlooking the sea. Our food arrived shortly after, and I tried to spark a conversation with Marcus. He ignored me, engrossed in his phone. I talked with my investors. I might have to go to Germany for a few days next week. I attempted, but he just tapped away. Why was I even trying to ease the tension between us? My ultimate goal was divorce. I reminded myself of that repeatedly, and I kept my mouth shut for the rest of dinner. Back at the hotel, I changed into a pair of blue shorts and a loose white t-shirt, grabbed a pillow, and collapsed on the couch. Soon, I heard whimpering again. I knew it was Marcus, and if I woke him, he'd probably lash out. I kept my eyes closed, trying to ignore it, but curiosity won. I peeked open one eye and saw him sweating, clearly terrified. I wanted to tell him it was okay, but I knew better. He repeated the restless movements for a while before finally leaving the room with a loud thud. Hesitantly, I wrapped a robe around myself and went to the balcony. And there he was, sitting on the bench by the sea, just like last time. We stayed in Florida for the next 2 days. Marcus's nightmares came every night, tormenting him and stealing his sleep. Despite my dislike for him, I couldn't stand the thought of someone suffering.
No one deserved that.
Each day, he slept only 2 to 3 hours before the nightmare struck, then retreated to the beach to relax, and later returned to the bed to work. I wanted to ask what was wrong, but we weren't close enough to have that conversation. After a long, uneventful week, we boarded the jet to fly home. To his home. To a new beginning, hopefully. I sat on the sofa by the pool, enjoying the setting sun. Marcus's house wasn't a mansion but a modern marvel, with glass walls and a massive garden. It was stunning, especially inside, with roses surrounding the fountain cascading like a ball gown. I glanced up to see Marcus in his room, calling someone while holding a file. The curtains were open, so I had a perfect view. "Miss, would you like me to show you to your room?" a woman asked. She seemed to be in her late 50s. "Sure," I replied, following her up the stairs. "Are you the maid here?" I asked. She nodded. "I'm Madeline. How many maids are here?" "Only me, Mississippi." I raised an eyebrow. "A billionaire with only one maid?" "Sir prefers the house to be quiet." I nodded. "Boring, as expected." "How long have you been working here?" 6 years, Mississippi." "Only you all this time?"
Yes.
"There was another girl until a few months ago."
Curiosity piqued.
"What happened to her?" Madeline fidgeted. She liked Master, tried to get his attention, and was fired." "For how long had she been working here?" 3 years. I frowned. If she'd been here so long, why fire her suddenly without ignoring what she did? She, got Master drunk and forced him to sleep with her. He wasn't in his right mind. He was fired the next day when he woke up. Shock and disgust surged through me. "Miss, don't think badly of Sir. It was all her doing. He didn't want anything to do with her. He's a good man, and I don't want you to think otherwise." Madeline clearly expected me to be jealous or angry that someone had slept with my husband before me. Honestly, I didn't care. With his rude attitude, I had assumed he was a virgin. But now I felt bad for Marcus. What happened to him was rape. I wondered where that woman was now. If it had been me, I would have sued immediately. Marcus probably hadn't, because the media would have turned vicious. The scandal could have ruined his business and reputation. People would have mocked him instead of seeking justice. The cruelty of it all disgusted me. Madeline dropped me off at my room, and I noticed my bags neatly arranged next to the bed. I walked over to the floor-to-ceiling windows, and my gaze immediately fell on Marcus's room. He was sitting on the bed, tapping away on his phone. His coat lay beside him, his hair disheveled, giving him a jaw-dropping appearance. For a moment, I wished I could run my hands across his toned body. I watched him a little too long, and apparently he noticed. He glanced my way, and my cheeks immediately burned with embarrassment. He quickly got out of bed and closed the curtains, and I did the same.
Gosh, why was I staring at him?
No, the real question. Why was I checking him out? Conclusion, I was finally going mad. The next morning, I went downstairs for breakfast. Madeline's cooking was impressive enough to keep me smiling all day. She mentioned Marcus had left for work early, which was even better. After breakfast, I decided to visit one of my stores before heading to the office. Despite the early hour, the store was busy. Expensive clothes for snobby, rich customers, targeting the wealthy always paid off. While questioning my staff about sales, I froze. Marcus walked in with a young, beautiful girl. She immediately dragged him to the dress section, whispering something, and to my horror, he smiled at her. Marcus? Smiling? Is he attracted to younger women? Wait, was he cheating on me? Anger boiled through me. Even if this marriage was fake, I wouldn't stand by and watch him disrespected. I strode over to them. Can I help you? I asked politely. The girl glanced at me, her eyes blank. She didn't recognize me. Yes, I'm going on a date with him, and I need a dress, she giggled, pointing at Marcus. Oh, amazing. Would you like me to show you a section with more beautiful dresses? I said, leading her away, while shooting Marcus a glare. He better have a good explanation. The girl picked a dress, and Marcus paid for it without even looking at me. I was beyond furious. He had no right to cheat. Both of us had been forced into this marriage. Respect was the least he could offer. That evening, I returned home, hoping to see Marcus, but he hadn't come back. I scoffed, imagining him enjoying. I was sitting in the kitchen when I finally heard him walk in. He looked at me briefly before climbing the stairs. That's it? I asked, annoyed. He stopped midway. What? You're not going to give me an explanation? Why would I? I'm not bound to you, he said, leaving me speechless. Bound? Was he kidding? Surely he'd forgotten about the marriage certificate between us. I had come here to make his life hell, but instead, mine had become one. Stomping up the stairs, I burst into his room with a loud bang. He looked up from the bed, a scowl painted across his face. Listen, you mister. I pointed a finger at him. Don't act like you're the only one forced into this marriage. I hate this with every fiber of my being. But I respect what we have now, and I'm not going to let you disrespect me or this marriage. Don't tarnish my reputation because you can't control yourself. And I swear, if you think of cheating again, you'll regret it. I shut the door and stomped downstairs for a drink. Miss, are you? Madeline asked, concerned. You mean okay, as in okay, my husband is cheating on me? I snapped. Her gasp was loud, and she covered her mouth with her hand in shock. Miss, that can't be true. Sir never does that. He doesn't care about love. Well, surely he does. I caught him today. You caught him with a woman? I nodded, sipping water. Miss, may I know what she looked like? She seemed 19 or in her early 20s. Dark hair, green eyes, like Marcus's. Madeline shook her head in disappointment. Miss, it's not his girlfriend. Then who is it? I complained, running my hands through my hair. She said she needed a dress for a date. And he shamelessly brought his booty call to my store. Miss, I'm disappointed. I interrupted. Miss. I cut her off again.